Appreciate the invitation to participate here. It's great to see that there's some folks out there from the Dartmouth community that are interested in certainly in sustainability and in what Lucid Motors is doing. I thought I would start by sharing a little bit of an overview of our company to give everyone a little bit of a flavor for what Lucid is doing in the electric vehicle space, what makes us different from other EV companies out there, or even well-established automotive brands that are now doing electric vehicles, and then we can get into more discussion around the sustainability side of the business, and specifically what some of our goals are in that area. Obviously, Lucid is a 100% battery electric vehicle company. So, our overall mission is to support, environmental protection and a move towards more sustainable transportation. And we're trying to do that initially by making a very high-end luxury vehicle. But the whole point here is to inspire further adoption of electric vehicles, which Tesla really spearheaded about 12 years or so ago with the Roadster product and the Model S. Our focus is really trying to draw more people into electric, not necessarily going head to head with Tesla, but trying to draw more people out of the rest of the luxury car industry. And then as the technology grows in dominance and the costs come down, right, we can also then help bring the technology to be more widely available. So Lucid is based right here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Our CEO and CTO is Peter Rawlinson, who was the chief engineer on Tesla's Model S program, and he joined Lucid to help really grow the company. It started initially in 2007. Focused on battery technologies, and when Peter joined and there was a fundraising round, the company's scope grew from just the battery system to the full electric powertrain, and eventually to the full vehicle development. So I've been with the company since 2015, seen a lot of the evolution really from those that early day when the vehicle program, the Lucid Air, started off. So our corporate headquarters are here in Newark, California, in the East Bay, and we have a full automotive factory now in Casa Grande, Arizona, which is about 45 minutes southeast of Phoenix. So not too far away. And we do all of our vehicle manufacturing there, doing the metal body buildup, the painting, the general assembly, all of the battery, powertrain, and motor gearbox are also assembled in-house at the factory, and we are producing vehicles there right now. So our first product is the Lucid Air. It's a four-door premium sedan flagship. It's meant to really establish the brand and demonstrate, even kind of a next generation of electric vehicle technologies. So this slide is actually a little bit dated. We now have confirmed with the EPA that our maximum range is 520 miles. And the final finished vehicle that's been now in customer hands is actually 1,111 horsepower. So just a tremendous machine. The initial batch of vehicles that are being delivered now as kind of a limited launch release. The Dream Edition starts at about $170,000, so a very expensive vehicle. But a tremendous amount of performance in that vehicle. And then the expectation is over the next year, we will launch, lower and lower packages of the vehicle into a Grand Touring, a Touring, and a Pure variant. And that Pure variant would start around $77,000. And then with the federal tax credits, it could be around $70,000. So that puts it solidly, in the same pricing point with a Mercedes S-Class, a Tesla Model S, or even an upper level BMW 5 Series, Mercedes E-Class, or medium size luxury sedan. In terms of what makes Lucid different, why is Lucid different from Tesla or any of the other electric vehicle startups you may have heard about over the last few years? I think what differentiates Lucid is, fundamentally is the technology. Peter Rawlinson's technical leadership has helped the company to develop a miniaturized and very, very power dense, both a battery and motor gearbox as well. If you look at the picture on the lower left, you can see our vehicle layout. So our motor, we have one motor at the front of the car and one at the rear of the car, and they're each smaller than a four-cylinder gasoline engine, and they each make about 600 horsepower. So it's an incredibly small motor unit. It's 3 times more power dense than the next closest unit that we've benchmarked in the industry. And what this really enables us to do is offer this space concept whereby we shrink the exterior of the vehicle and we grow the interior of the vehicle. And you can see that right down here in the bottom left picture, where you've got a Lucid Air in the middle and a Mercedes S-Class and BMW 7 Series next to our vehicle. And you can see how much more compact our vehicle is, yet on the inside, we actually have more footroom and more occupant space than either of these full-size sedans. So the car is just fundamentally more efficient when it comes to the use of space. We also offer, a traditional trunk where you can store things under the back of the vehicle, but a front trunk, or as now known in the industry as the frunk, 10 cubic feet of space under the hood, which is also class leading there, and I think twice as large as the next largest offering on the market. So it's this space concept that allows us to offer a car with incredible range, incredible occupant space inside the vehicle, class leading storage, in a very compact exterior, with tremendous power. It's a combination of features you simply cannot get in a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. It's also, again, a kind of a next generation beyond what's being offered by other EV manufacturers. So, we don't want to just be a follower in the technology. We want to be class leading. And I think we've demonstrated that with the range. We've achieved the range on the vehicle really by having all the technology in-house. So we developed the battery pack in-house, we developed the motor, the gearbox, the power electronics, and these systems all have to work together to flow the energy from the battery to the wheels in the most efficient manner. Also by having such a small powertrain, that also there's fewer moving parts, there's less friction, there's more efficiency. The vehicle is very, very aerodynamic, and it's this total package and control over the whole powertrain that gives us this kind of achievement in range. It also lays the groundwork and the path for bringing a lot of the costs down, right? If you have a smaller powertrain, you have less material. The greater efficiency you have in terms of converting battery energy to actual propulsion, the less battery you need. So we didn't achieve the 520 miles of range just by stuffing a lot more battery into the car. We achieved it by this focus on efficiency in the vehicle. And we have a battery pack that is, I think, 10 kilowatts more than what Tesla offers in their top end vehicle, and we achieve over 100 miles more range with it. So, having that focus on efficiency allows us to be more economical with the batteries, allows us then to also move down the path of bringing the cost down and helping make electric vehicles more attainable for a wider range of people and in a wider range of vehicles in the future. So that's a little bit about the car itself. We did launch it just a couple of weeks ago, and we are now starting to do kind of regular customer deliveries. So you will start seeing some of these vehicles on the road. We're starting to see some really strong press from the media reactions, customer reactions. I think so far it's been very well received by the public, and we hope to see more of that as we get more vehicles out there on the road. And then after this, we now start kind of ramping up that production. We start focusing on The next vehicle, which would be an SUV based off this same platform, we're calling it the Gravity SUV, and that would be also built in our Arizona factory. And so the goal is to scale it. I think it's been great to be part of this success and see the kind of the all of the energies and people's talents and efforts come together with a successful company, and a product that further demonstrates, how electric vehicles can really just be a better car. It's just a better technology. It's great that we're doing this right here in California, and helping shift the automotive industry in this direction. And also grow U.S. jobs, U.S. technology, U.S. manufacturing, and hopefully, contributing a bit to the economy of the country. There are very few industries that contribute as many jobs as an automotive factory. So that's a little bit of a highlight on the company and our first product. Kate, where did you want to go next?
Well, thank you for that introduction. That's really, really helpful. I'm sure it gives everybody a lot of context. What I wanted to do next is talk about Lucid's corporate values regarding climate change and ESG. Obviously, the company was founded to create environmentally friendly products. As I understand it, actually, the company started making batteries.
That's correct. Yeah, so the company was founded in 2007 as a little bit of a spin-off from Tesla, and initially worked on battery pack development for commercial vehicle applications. So first 5-6 years were all focused on battery packs for commercial vehicles. We had about 30 million miles driven on customer products in the commercial vehicle market. But really to influence the industry more broadly, we felt we needed to move into the automotive space, the full vehicle manufacturing space. While the big car companies are only making kind of overpriced electric vehicles that don't go very far, you've got kind of have limited business influence if you're just making battery packs and supplying those to the big automakers, right? If we can bring something like the Lucid Air to market, you can really show and demonstrate what the technology is capable of.
Yeah, great. So previously you showed me a slide with your ESG values on there. Could we take a quick look at that?
Sure.
Stay at the high level right now, because we'll be getting more into supply chain in a little bit.
Yeah, and so this is ESG is obviously kind of core to the mission of the company, and now that we've got our first vehicle into production, we have an opportunity to really now take that step back and look at how we can, lay a strategic path to really build out our company's impact on the environment, on social issues and corporate governance here. So what I'm showing here is a little bit of our long-term vision for ESG, basically, tackling challenges such as climate change, and driving our team to innovate for that kind of efficiency and responsible use of resources that make it also sustainable. When it comes to supply chain, my specific area, that we have a huge impact on the overall company's environmental footprint. We're shipping all these parts all over the world. We're manufacturing all these parts, and then bringing them into Phoenix to assemble. So, on the environmental side, we're looking very closely at greenhouse gas emissions from freight transportation, from manufacturing of our parts, the environmental protection that we can try to drive in the manufacturing of these parts throughout our supply chain globally, and how do we control the waste as well, the scrap, and the recyclability of our parts, our packaging. On the social side of things, there's a lot of coverage in the media around battery mineral mining and human rights and working conditions, and that goes kind of throughout the supply chain, whether it's cobalt, or those kinds of raw material mining, or into part assembly and making sure that our suppliers, are offering good working conditions, regardless of what they're making. And on the governance side of things, running an ethical business, making sure that our suppliers follow suit, and also protect that intellectual property that we're creating here, right? It's the U.S. is still the market leader now in electric vehicle technology and innovation, and obviously we want to keep that leading edge in the market as we grow.
Yeah, thank you. There's so many ways that we could digress on this one, like the human rights and intellectual property. But I'd really like to keep going, so you could start talking about the environmental attributes of the product itself. You've got all sorts of things that go into the product that are environmentally sensitive, and I wanted you to be able to talk about that.
Sure. Yeah, and I because fundamentally our team started by looking at how could we make the vehicle as recyclable and as sustainable as possible. This slide, shows one example of where our design team spent a lot of work trying to develop interior materials, right, that were sustainable. Everything from our textiles that are used in the car that come from sustainable alpaca sources, to the wood decor that uses natural sustainable materials such as eucalyptus. Our Dream Edition is fitted out with eucalyptus wood veneers, which is readily available, and still a beautiful execution as well. When it comes to the leathers inside the vehicle, we've selected a supplier that has a carbon neutral footprint in their production. We also offer our Pure Luxe leather alternative for people who are conscious around wanting to have a more of a vegan footprint. And then when it comes to the paints on the car, trying to select materials there that reduce the production of VOCs. The paint shop process is usually the heaviest kind of environmental footprint and emissions source for an automotive manufacturing facility, and we've taken a lot of care to select paint materials and paint processes and paint equipment in our factory in Arizona that has the smallest footprint possible, and tries to actually improve air quality and promote a minimal environmental impact.
And were your decisions to create all these to use all these kinds of materials driven by customer demand or by your values, or both?
I think it's a little bit of both. I would say a lot of it was driven by our team internally. I think you see some of the trends in the market towards people being more sustainably conscious, around the products that they support and buy. But I think it was also a good bit of it was just our team, many of whom have spent whole careers in the automotive space, wanting to promote this, wanting to be class leading, sort of challenge the norms of the industry and the materials used, and seek out other alternatives and bring them to market to, again, force shifts in the kind of the traditional industry, and promote a better environmental footprint.
Yeah, there isn't anybody else in the industry that's doing all this, is there?
I don't know that anyone is doing all of this. I think Lucid is definitely class leading in terms of how comprehensive our materials sustainability strategy is. I will say a lot of automakers are looking at this and using select portions, right? Trying to look at whether it's textiles or woods and decors. I think everyone has it on their mind. I do think that Lucid is at the leadership level in terms of how comprehensive the strategy is.
Yeah, you've been really, really thorough about it. It's very admirable. So let's talk about your supply chain in more detail. So this is obviously your responsibility. And how does your value system impact your supply chain decisions and in terms of ESG? And are you also being affected by the supply chain problems that are happening overall in industry and with chips and so forth?
Yeah, so I touched on a couple of things there. When we're selecting, got up to the first portion of your question, when we're selecting suppliers, we absolutely do a supplier audit. Most companies do, right? You send folks to the factory, you look at how their work practices are, you measure their quality, their safety and working conditions. So that's sort of the basic requirements that we have when we're selecting suppliers, and then we're by virtue of the designs and materials selected, right, trying to promote the environmental goals of the company in that fashion. Certainly, the last year and a half has been, I think, challenging for anyone who's in the supply chain business. Whether it's the semiconductor space or the freight congestion and prices that have gone kind of astronomically up, there's been a lot of challenges. I think our biggest struggle has been really the lack of travel, right? We've not been able to go visit suppliers, see our parts, see our tooling and things being made, and help and work face to face with people to develop and tune our products and get them ready for production. That travel restriction has definitely caused some challenges for us in terms of communications and speed of resolutions of issues. We've been fortunate to be able to navigate the semiconductor situation so far and have not had any impacts from that. Silicon Valley is the home of semiconductors, so we have a strong team here, both on the engineering side and on the commercial side, that have been able to keep good relationships with the semiconductor companies, and also pivot our designs when necessary to use alternative chips that are more readily available. We're highly vertically integrated when it comes to the electronics. So we do all the design and sourcing at the component level in-house, which most of the large automakers do not. So in this rapidly changing market, having that ability to pivot quickly and buy chips on the open market, alter designs in a couple of weeks rather than months, has allowed us to stay ahead of the semiconductor shortage. Right now, I think our biggest headache is the freight costs and the lack of freight availability as we try to ramp up production right now, and the port congestion, and that now the spilling over to air freight is also a big challenge right now and getting congested. So I heartily recommend all of you to buy virtual gifts. Do not go rushing out on Black Friday and buy things left and right. I suggest restaurant coupons and gift certificates for gifts this holiday season, to try to ease the consumer pressure on all the material shipments that are going on right now.
So you assemble in the United States. Do your parts come from all over the world?
So about 60 to 70% of our suppliers are based in North America. So at US, Canada, Mexico, there's a healthy amount of parts that come from Mexico. And then we've got about 20% in Asia and maybe about 10% in Europe. So it is global. Some parts and some technologies are only available from a few suppliers or are only manufactured in certain regions. So it ends up being a balance, but the majority of it comes from North America, at least.
And where are your customers ordering from? Are they all North America so far?
So we now have a customer in every one of the 50 states, at least a reservation holder. So we have well over 15,000 reservation holders for the car. And our sales team was very happy to announce that we have reservations in every single state. The majority of them, right, are on the coasts, a lot in Chicago area. Actually, Florida is a really big state. We're delivering some cars to Florida in the next few days. And we've now opened a store up in British Columbia. Canada tends to be also very popular for electric vehicles, and then we'll be opening stores in Europe next year and migrating to exporting the vehicle into Europe next year, and then to Asia the year after that.
Assuming shipping costs come down.
Assuming shipping costs come down.
Are you thinking at all of manufacturing overseas?
You know, as we grow, if we continue to be successful, the next vehicle, the Gravity, would be built in Arizona. Automotive industry is extremely capital intensive, and once you build a factory, you want to absolutely maximize the production out of that factory. So next few years will be focused on Arizona. As you've seen Tesla expand and start to produce globally, that's the logical next extension, right, for us as well, for the next platform of vehicles, and as we grow over the next 5 to 10 years, for sure.
Well, I see there are lots of really good questions coming in, so I would like to ask Kevin to open up the questions and start steering that conversation.
Okay, so yeah, one of the very good questions we received is from Diana and also Skip. Similar questions is to ask, hey, Peter, what is your plan on the EOL, particularly on the batteries? So the other question she has is, do you plan to produce a lower cost model compared to the cost to a Toyota Camry?
Sure. So two questions there. In terms of end of life, it's a great question. It's certainly a topic of a lot of interest, right, in the media, also around electric vehicles and how sustainable are electric vehicles. I think one of the studies that I've seen show that electric vehicles definitely have a smaller environmental footprint, right, over ICE engine vehicles for sure. And the great advantage is that you have so few moving parts. The batteries are all solid state. You've got Tesla vehicles out there, that are demonstrating 100, 200,000 miles of driving range. And even after that amount of driving, the battery still has 80% of its range. So I think the greatest opportunity in terms of end of life for electric vehicles is a second life for the batteries. So the battery may lose some of its range, and the car may be at the end of its life, but the battery could be redeployed for stationary storage, either for commercial or residential applications. Our battery system consists of 22 modules. Each module is about 2.5 feet wide and maybe 8-10 inches long, right, 3 inches or so tall. So those bricks could actually be harvested out of the battery pack, redeployed into a stationary storage, much like Tesla's Powerwall system, and be perfectly good for another 10 years. Tesla's looked a lot at that. We're definitely looking at that as well. So it's an opportunity then to get 20 plus years out of a single battery pack from a vehicle, and not just tear them down and try to harvest the minerals, but simply disassemble them and redeploy the modules into a second life activity. So I think that's a really promising opportunity that has kind of the smallest challenge to establish. Then you've also got obviously the recycling of the battery material itself. That is still in a somewhat, at least from what I've seen, nascent state. You've got companies like Redwood Materials, that's led by JB Straubel, who was the CTO of Tesla. JB is focused heavily on that recyclability, really taking these battery packs and grinding them up, tearing them down, being able to separate out the different minerals and reuse the cobalt, nickel, lithium, and redeploy them back into the kind of the chemicals market. It's a complicated process. These batteries are highly engineered and fabricated. So, I think there's still a little bit of a ways to go to make that economical and feasible. But you're seeing several companies focus on that now. Like I said, my personal feeling is that the second life is a really low-hanging fruit opportunity for reusing the battery packs and extending their overall life. In terms of the cost roadmap for vehicles and electric vehicle technology, I think everyone's focused on bringing that cost down over time. From an automaker perspective, the premium segment is where the profits are. If you look at Porsche is the most widely seen as the most profitable or among the most profitable car companies in the world. They have 5 or 6 product lines, and not a single one of them starts at less than $50,000. So that is definitely our focus for the near term is creating a profitable business, and putting products out there that are in the premium market. We definitely want to bring the cost down from what we're offering the Dream vehicle at, and make it more attainable for more people. But I think we will likely stay in the premium segment for quite a while. I did mention earlier, though, that the way we've approached the technology, really with this focus on efficiency, I think gives us a leg up in terms of being able to bring the costs down, because the most expensive part of the car is the battery pack, right? It's 20+% of the whole cost of the car. And so if you can make the car go farther with less battery, you can bring the cost. You need less battery, and they cost less. So that focus on efficiency, the overall vehicle range. I don't need a car that goes 520 miles. I would happily buy one that went 350 miles. And so I think we have the opportunity really to bring the cost down and help the industry. Everyone's focused heavily on bring the cost of the batteries down. But if you can also bring the efficiency of the vehicle up, right, then, as the battery prices start to plateau, you have an opportunity to still keep driving the costs per mile driven down, and ultimately, I think that will help greatly in making compact cars and economy vehicles more attainable in an electric vehicle configuration.
That's a great point, Peter. And then me as an electric car driver, I noticed the more efficient cars will prolong the car's life, and the longer you keep one car, the lower carbon footprints there is. So thank you. Yeah.
And electric vehicles are virtually maintenance free.
Correct.
Right? You have many fewer moving parts. You don't have oil to change. You don't have filters to change. Really, other than washer fluid and brake fluid, the cars are very, very durable. The brake pads last twice as long because you can use regenerative braking, just modulating the accelerator for most of your braking needs. I drive a Tesla until I get my Lucid Air, and I've had the car 2 years, and I've done virtually no maintenance on it whatsoever.
Great. So next question is from our own Catherine. So what mechanism do you use to identify vendors and that ensure they adhere your own Lucid Air, Lucid company's ESG requirements?
Oh, that's a great question. To be frank, as a small company, we have not had the opportunity to drive that as hard as we would like. So it's one of our focuses going forward, especially next year, is starting to really scorecard our suppliers more against ESG criteria. So, what I showed as our ESG strategy from a company standpoint is a relatively new direction. We've always been focused, obviously, as an electric vehicle manufacturer on, the environment and sustainability. But the focus has been getting the product on the road, getting manufacturing started up. Now we're able to really get everyone to step back, look at, okay, what do we want our ESG strategy to really be? And what are the specific projects we can take on as still a very small company, to make an impact? What are the real things that we can influence, and where can we make an impact? For me on the supply chain side of things, one of our biggest focuses is really going to be on freight. Where can we reduce the freight impact, transportation waste of packing materials, and trucking and transportation emissions. When it comes to the suppliers themselves, it kind of goes back to doing those supplier quality audits and enhancing those audits to have more of a workers' rights and environmental ESG scorecarding as part of those initial surveys, making sure we are regularly going to the supplier sites and reviewing their practices and seeing how their manufacturing floors operate, and trying to get more into that transparency in the supply chain, where they're getting their materials from, and trying to understand that full depth.
Very good, Peter. And we all know we experienced a supply chain bottleneck last year, and obviously we're still recovering from that. And the other question came from David is, hey, what is the percentage of your vendors are part of your supply chains domestic versus overseas?
Sure. So I think I mentioned it's about 60 to 70% are domestic in North America, US, Canada, and Mexico. And then we got about 20% in Asia and about 10% in Europe.
Great.
So, Peter, somebody is asking, a number of companies have left the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, in favor of Florida and Texas. What's your commitment to staying in California, or do you envision moving as well? That's a ringer.
Yeah, there's a loaded question for sure. No, I think we're for the current time we're absolutely committed to California and Arizona. Our corporate headquarters is here in Newark. We employ about 3,500 people now total, between California and Arizona. The campus that we are on currently has got expansion space for us, so we've taken over a couple of other buildings. So I think we're very comfortable in this campus. We've got room to grow here for quite a while, and we will be starting up more regional offices as we grow. Right, we'll be expanding in Arizona as well. Likely overseas in Europe again as our retail presence grows. We've already got established offices in Amsterdam, so I think we'll see organic growth over time. Certainly at this stage, we're not looking to disrupt anything or make any large changes in location strategy.
Why did you choose Arizona for manufacturing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was part of the site selection team. This was obviously years ago. And we looked at 65 different properties in about 13 different states all over America. We looked at what's called brownfield and greenfield sites. So greenfield would be just a plot of land, and brownfield would be an existing building or factory site. And through that process, obviously we wanted to stay as close to California as possible. But at the end of the day, right, you have to have a scorecard that looks at everything: worker availability, costs, automotive supply chain, logistics, et cetera, et cetera. And through that process, Arizona gradually emerged to the top. It's a lot of people ask me that question because Arizona is not a typical kind of car manufacturing location. But when you look at the fundamentals there, Arizona is a very pro-business state. Our factory is a couple hundred miles from the Mexico border, and directly south of there's a large automotive supply base already established in the state of Sonora, and they support one of Ford's factories down there. So it gave us a chance to be relatively close to California, from an availability of just flying back and forth and having employees be able to jump on a plane and get to the factory very quickly, and also a close relationship to an established automotive supply base that we could draw parts from and have kind of efficient logistics from. So it ended up being kind of a combination of factors: the pro-business nature of Arizona, the proximate location both to California and to an established automotive supply base. Kind of that all came together in a very good solution for us. It was also, we secured a site that's 500 acres, which is kind of what you need long-term if you want to have a large automotive factory. And the United States is a big place, but if you're looking for 500 acres that's pretty flat and rectangular, doesn't have any major monuments or impediments to work around, and is zoned properly, has infrastructure, power, water, road, rail, all to that site, you actually end up with not a lot of choices quite quickly. Because we needed a site also that we could go very quickly with and couldn't spend a year running water or power to the site. So all of those factors came together in the total solution.
Plus, there's plenty of sunshine there for your solar panels.
A lot of sunshine. We're putting solar panels in actually right now to help power the factory and also provide some shade for employee parking. So that's the next phase of build out there.
Kevin?
Great. Yes. So Peter, Skip has another question. Is Lucid embrace full self-driving, or Lucid be satisfied to offer the Dream Drive ADAS as driver assistant technology only?
Yeah, no, a lot of media coverage of autonomous driving over the last few years. A lot of big promises from some automakers, but I think people are starting to realize that truly autonomous driving is an immensely complicated problem to solve. I think it's actually much easier to create an autopilot for a plane than it is for a car, right? A plane is other than trying to keep track of other planes in the air, it's a relatively unimpeded environment, whereas a car is a very, very dynamic environment. So our approach has been to offer the Lucid Air with a full suite of autonomous driving sensors and computing platform. So we have, I lose track, there's so many sensors, there's well over 30 sensors on the car, cameras, LiDAR, radar, ultrasonics, and we've basically set up the hardware of the platform to allow for fully autonomous driving. So we have all the sensors and redundancy and safety systems in the vehicle to offer autonomous driving. At the start of production here, we are offering the vehicle with a competitive set of ADAS features. What's the industry kind of lingo is a level 2 driving system, where it does offer adaptive cruise control, lane keeping that will keep the vehicle in the lane, similar to Tesla's autopilot, where you do need to keep your hand on the wheel, you need to stay engaged. We have a driver monitoring camera that actually tracks your eye gaze, right? So if you start fooling with your phone or being distracted or looking in the back seat at your kids, it will pipe up and remind you to pay attention to the road. And our goal is then to continue building out the algorithms, the software, to enhance the automated driving from this point forward. I could talk a lot about autonomous driving. It's a really interesting subject. It's to get to autonomy, you really have to be able to do three things. You have to have the sensors to understand the environment around the car. You have to have the algorithms to be able to steer and control and brake the car. And then you have to have the data, the road and environmental data to be able to let the car make good decisions. And that data piece is one of the key elements that has prevented any automaker from offering really autonomous driving. And it's one of the huge legs up that Tesla has, because every customer gives Tesla data, right? They harvest information from that sensor suite on the Tesla cars, and they offload it through your Wi-Fi connection while you're sleeping. And the car is connected to your home Wi-Fi. Tesla's gathering that data back, and they're using that to understand how do the roads differ between California and Florida, how do different lighting conditions vary, how do street signs vary from state to state, lane markings. California, we have bumps, right? The rest of the world that has snow doesn't put bumps on the road. And it's that diversity of field data that I think will really be necessary to offer true autonomy. And Tesla is one of the only companies out there that is getting that level of data back. We're of a similar strategy, and we have the same sort of arrangement, so we can start harvesting customer data and make the car smarter the longer you own it, and offer all those updates over the air.
Great.
Next.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm sorry. A couple of people have asked questions about the cost of maintenance and the cost of insurance, and how people would go about getting repairs for the Lucid and whether
Sure.
it would be affordable.
Yeah, so we have service centers established now in the major metropolitan areas. We have, I think, 11 retail and service centers set up coast to coast now. It's not a lot. It's a starting point. So you do want to, if you're buying a Lucid Air, you want to be relatively close to one of those, service centers. And then we'll grow the footprint, obviously, as we scale here. We have, have worked with authorized body shops that can do body repairs. Obviously, Lucid service centers would need to do more complicated repairs, anything that involves, the systems on the vehicle, electrical systems and whatnot. In terms of insurance, I don't know. I'm sure the insurance will be fairly expensive. Insurance companies will be cautious, right? With any new car, any new company like ours. I remember when I was at Tesla, it was certainly a bone of contention. Tesla ended up offering their own insurance to customers because they were not satisfied with the rates the insurance companies were offering people. So I don't know what the insurance is. I imagine it will start off being fairly expensive there.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Kevin, do you have one in mind?
Yes, I do. So Peter, you mentioned that to me in the past, that the two-way charging and that feature, I think is very, very intriguing feature that allow another option when you lose electricity at a house. So could you briefly touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for reminding me. I forgot to touch on that. So I think I'm pretty sure we are the first electric vehicle to offer this as a feature. So obviously, when you get home at night, you plug the car in, right, and it recharges the battery overnight, and you start every day. People talk about range anxiety, but you actually start every day with the equivalent of a full tank of gasoline. So you actually never really have to worry about range, especially if you have 500 miles. And I see one comment here around how did we achieve the 520 miles and what were the road conditions. So our 520 miles of range on the Lucid Air does involve highway driving. People, we've shown, you can search the internet. We did a ride with Motor Trend, Los Angeles to San Francisco, demonstrating 500 miles of real usage, highway driving, and practical achievement of that 500 miles rating. It is our EPA rating, but it's also very much a real world expectation. So when it comes to charging, we work with Electrify America, who offers a coast-to-coast high-speed charging network, so that people can drive farther than 500 miles if they want to in a given day. That's a long drive, but if you want to go farther, you can. And then our car is set up to also be able to charge your home as well. So the battery is 113 kilowatt hours. My home consumes about 35 kilowatt hours on an average day. So I could power my home for over 3 days with just off of a single charge on the car's battery. So it opens up a new kind of element or opportunity where you might not need a Tesla Powerwall anymore, right? You can use your car as that Powerwall. The highest energy rates are typically like 4 till 9 or 4 till 11, the afternoons, evenings, when everyone's home, right? You get home from work, you plug your car in, you still have some charge left over, right? Because you haven't used it on an average day. You run your house off of your car during those peak usage hours. You help bring down PG&E's, stressed out system out there, and then you go to bed at night and the car recharges from 11 till 6 or 7 in the morning. You go to work the next day. And you're recharging the car, using cheaper energy. You're helping with what's called peak shaving during kind of peak usage hours in the evenings. And it kind of goes back to that overall efficiency of not only the vehicle, but just the use of energy, and trying to promote that beyond just the car, but to your home and the wider environment as well.